Story 1. Honestly, I am taking this opportunity to raise a huge red flag that I have seen lead to emotional abuse in my friends' relationships. People who have no hobbies, no doom-scrolling TikTok or binge-watching TV shows is not a hobby, inevitably require their significant other to fulfill 100% of their entertainment. If they don't think this need is being met, they can become very unpleasant very quickly. Story 2. When they correct or argue with absolutely anything you say, no matter how innocent or innocuous. When you cannot get or have to work for straight answers to simple questions. When they volunteer personal or embarrassing information about you in public for laughs at your expense. When they consistently put everyone else's interests or feelings before yours, even strangers. These are all signs that they do not respect you as a person. Story 3. When you start noticing that you need a few seconds at the beginning of every conversation to consider your words and select non-conflict strategies. Story 4. Might not be the biggest red flag, but every present, such as birthday, Valentine's Day, or Christmas, they give you, especially ones for your birthday, is an us gift. Think shared cookware, bedding, or home decorations. It typically means they do not consider your interests when thinking about you. Thoughtlessness. Story 5. The big issue is the general attitude that her own feelings are just a fact of life, and it is the man's job to manage them and keep her happy. Little consideration is given to how he feels about things. One common manifestation of this is irrational jealousy, where everything he does is seen as a sign he will cheat on her. She will often admit it is unreasonable, but he should try not to upset her. Next, you are not allowed to say hello to a cashier. Male pronouns are used here, but similar abusive behavior has been observed in lesbians. Story 6. Microaggressions pick at things about you and your friends, moving goalposts for you to change. They make you feel small and like you need to earn something she could give. Things are one-sided with a promise that they will level out later. Story 7. Not valuing your emotional well-being or your needs can harm a relationship. If you express to her something you find critical and she fails to take it seriously, the relationship is headed toward collapse. Story 8. An easy red flag for anyone to pay attention to is, are you afraid of them? It will be the earliest sign. Story 9. Actions speak louder than words. If they do not back up what they are saying with actions, then they are most likely going to become emotionally abusive in the long run. Find someone who can commit to their word. It only gets worse the more comfortable they get with you. Story 10. Listen to your body. If you tense when they walk into the room, consider why that is, especially if you know they are in a bad mood and you physically avoid them. Story 11. If she never says I am sorry, in any intense relationship you have to say that sometimes. If she never does, it means she is not. Story 12. Getting angry when you just talk about anything, believing they are being questioned when you simply asked about something, putting you down with name-calling with the intent to hurt you, ignoring you when they get mad. Story 13. She becomes entirely dependent on you and now she cannot afford to help with any bills. But strangely she was managing before you met. Essentially, she wants another father. Yes, it is from personal experience. Story 14. It does not even have to be something you have done. They might just put words in your mouth and then punish you for it. Story 15. When she got angry at the smallest things, my ex would become very mad over matters my current girlfriend just laughs off or says are not a big deal. She helped me realize I dodged a bullet. My ex would get upset for things like arriving a few minutes late and act like it ruined the whole day or mood. Sometimes I thought I was at fault because she convinced me of it. She expected perfection in everything and an apology twice as loud. When she was on her period, she used it as an excuse to snap more often, yet in my current relationship there is nothing like that. If you feel mentally or emotionally drained, do yourself a favor and leave. It will not get better. Find a woman who is emotionally intelligent and empathetic. Story 16. Takes horoscopes way too seriously and doesn't listen to your suggestions, only her friends' suggestions, despite them being the same. Story 17. Sudden anger or withdrawal when you try to help them. Their shame gets activated and they react. This is a significant warning sign. Story 18. Looking back, the wise advice of viewing your prospective mother-in-law as a template for how your wife will be in 25 years remains sound. If her example is unpleasant, then guess what? I was very lucky when she said yes 48 years ago. I have never bothered buying lottery tickets because I used up my ration of good luck. While she is no longer with us, her mother was a gem. She kept her own counsel about us and our marriage and never criticized anybody. She worked until retirement and put her 3 children through college. She was widowed when my wife was 16. She lived an exemplary life. While my wife crochets and spends time on social media like many others, her mother, other than watching television and reading, did not really have hobbies. So much for that bit of advice. Story 19. She reminded me several times that she had a list of men willing to date her if it did not work out with me. Story 20. Evil look and sudden smack to the face over minor situations. Discovering they were choking you while sleeping. Story 21. Being completely nice in front of friends and family but slapping and hitting when alone, even at the slightest verbal offense. Story 22. Snapping at you when something unrelated to you goes wrong. Telling her friends and family about the things you do wrong but telling you not to share what she does because it is embarrassing. Saying she does not feel comfortable when you hang out with a female friend you have had long before her, but she can go to the houses of men she just met. Constantly talking about how much she loves her pets. Then frequently leaving them alone for hours or days and forgetting to feed them. Telling you how our relationship must look like we hate each other to other people. I found definitive proof that she cheated on me, and then she tried to manipulate me into staying. Story 23. Behaving differently around friends than in private. For example, as soon as you leave a dinner party, they start criticizing you about some trivial thing you said or did. Story 24. Extreme anger triggered by a specific situation. For my ex, it was when I did not want to visit her family. Every time that situation arose, extreme anger emerged. This eventually generalized to all topics, not just her family. I believe people like that hide their true selves for years, but there are areas where their true self emerges, even in the beginning. Also, having no friends or quickly burning bridges very frequently is a sign of someone who is very unstable and who others dislike. You might feel the same way about them. Story 25. I'll start with if they try to push negative masculinity onto you. My first marriage to my high school sweetheart was an absolute nightmare looking back. We were together 2 times, my freshman year of high school and later when I was a senior. I'll start with the freshman year before we had moved in together. She was also 3 years older than me, so she had gone off and done grown-up things when we got back together later. She constantly wanted to be on the phone with me. When I got home, I needed to call her right away until it was time to go to sleep, pretty much. If I dared to hang out with my friends, she'd start getting mad and drop the suicide card constantly. Any other female that existed was trying to steal me away, according to her, so no talking to other females. She also complained that my job was taking too much time away from her. At some point, I quit my job to spend more time with her, and then I was the asshole because I couldn't buy her things anymore. We eventually broke up because I went to stay at a friend's house out of state while my parents went on vacation. When I came back, I found out she cheated on me with another girl while I was gone. It doesn't matter what the gender was, but that messed with my head for a while because I thought I wasn't man enough. 3 years later, we met up again, and I walked right back into the train wreck. She had had a daughter after we broke up, and the father had gotten sent to jail. The second time around, she isolated me from friends and family again. Any woman I spoke to obviously wanted to get with me. When I became a supervisor, she wanted me to fire every woman that worked at my job. We had constant arguments over absolutely nothing. Slowly, her hitting me started, but I was a man, and that shouldn't affect me, so who would I complain to? If I tried to hold her to get her to stop hitting me, she would start screaming that she needed help. Every time I decided I had enough and was leaving, she would throw her daughter into the argument. Oh, looks like another man is walking out of our life. Guess there's no such thing as a real man. Guess you're going to have to grow up without a father. I wish I had just left earlier. It was so toxic. But no, I didn't escape the relationship until after I joined the army and found out she cheated again while I was gone for training. I learned a lot from that relationship. For a while, I probably tipped the scales too much, and while I wouldn't call myself an asshole, I was a lot more closed off in relationships and wouldn't apologize for anything I did because I constantly apologized to her when I did nothing wrong. I had a girlfriend slap me once, and that was an instant breakup. I don't tolerate physical violence whatsoever anymore, nor should anyone else. Maintaining healthy relationships outside of a spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend is vital and should be encouraged. Story 26. If her mother or father is a bully, she will be a bully too because that is the parenting style she grew up with. Story 27. Do not ignore the first significant argument or unusual reaction. Take note and address the situation immediately. Be willing to walk away. For example, if she becomes extremely angry, yelling, telling you off, and swearing at you because your phone died and you missed her calls. From experience, also avoid friends and hobbies. Story 28. From experience, observe how they behave with their family. Over time, they will treat you the same way. My ex had a very strange relationship with her family. They were very close but would lash out at each other for almost anything. At some point, she started treating me like family. For example, if I asked her something once or twice, by the third time she would respond, "What do you want? Can't you see I'm busy?" Story 29. I am not a man, but I have been in an abusive relationship with a woman. I think the biggest red flag I ignored was love bombing. Nobody was using this term at the time, so I thought she was just really into me. She also tried to isolate me from friends by constantly putting them down and telling my family negative things about them. Someone else also mentioned constantly arguing with anything you say. I never knew what would trigger her because it was literally anything and everything. Story 30. Tendency to shift blame onto you, blame you for their outrageous behavior, persistent ignoring after arguments, manipulation, jealousy coupled with disrespectful and potentially abusive behavior. Ignoring or devaluing your expectations, being completely closed off or defensive when you seek an intimate conversation or clarification. Stay away from such individuals. They may abuse you emotionally, financially, and most likely become emotionally or even physically violent. Story 31. Controlling toward others. She prides herself on being able to always predict other people's behaviors. Her parents say, "You don't know how you put up with her." Story 32. Controlling and micromanaging. I do not want to come home from work feeling like I am going to a second job. I want to relax and unwind after work, not be made to do things as soon as I walk in the door, only for them to complain about how I am doing it. Exhausting. Story 33. Lying, speaking negatively about others, taking trips to nearby stores that take hours, not understanding boundaries. Story 34. If they insist that you compliment them and criticize you if you do not compliment them enough, pick at your word choice, or compare you to ex-partners. Story 35. They never apologize or take ownership of mistakes. Guess who she will end up blaming later when things go wrong. Story 36. If on a night out you always seem to argue and you can't understand why, but somehow you feel like a terrible person the next day without understanding why, because all that's been accused appears to be out of character, here is a tip. Don't tell her, but stick to non-alcoholic drinks and see what really happens. I ended a relationship with my difficult and intense girlfriend shortly after. Story 37. Not a man, but I saw it happen with my ex-friend relationship, never being happy. No matter how well he treated her, she would always speak badly about him to me. She always complained that he didn't get things right, even though he tried, and she would always look for an argument. My final straw with her was a few months ago. We were sitting together when he gave her an envelope, having bought her a trip to Italy, New York, and Cyprus this year. She started complaining that none of those were the places she had been asking to visit and said he was horrible for not listening. He obviously got upset. I stood up, told him he was better off with anyone else, and walked out the door. I haven't spoken to her since. If no one is grateful for your efforts, they will hate you and hold resentments. This will always turn abusive, either emotionally, verbally, or physically. Story 38. A big glaring issue for me was when he said, When I first started dating you, I thought I needed to mold you like clay into the perfect girlfriend, but you were actually pretty cool as is. I was pretty young, 17, and had never been in a relationship, so I overlooked this to my regret. Clearly, this was negging. Besides that, there were romantic comedy-like gestures to get your affections, with bonus points if it was public and seemingly more about them getting the good boyfriend image. Also, pay attention to how they talk about and leave previous partners. I dated the guy for 4.5 years, and it was very verbally and emotionally abusive. On the surface, he seemed like a charming, nice, if a little domineering guy. I now have an amazing partner. Interestingly, things started off much more mundane, but we have a fantastic and healthy relationship and are about to move in together. For what it's worth, my ex became a super traditional Catholic, is very conservative, married a woman who was barely out of college, and now they are expecting a child almost exactly 9 months after getting married. Story 39. This has probably been mentioned in other comments, but how they talk to their mother or parent is surprising. My girlfriend was really nice and sweet, but when she spoke to her mother, she was horrible. I heard her for the first time on the phone shouting, calling her stupid, and having zero patience. I told her to be nice, but she said that her mother was annoying. When we all met up, it was the same in person. Her mother was a little annoying, but you could tell she was trying hard to say nice things to her daughter and was afraid of the unpleasant words that would come back. For example, every suggestion she made was met with scoffs and essentially told not to partake in the conversation. She was completely subservient to her father, who was insufferable. I felt sorry for her mother even if I did not like her very much. It was an odd family. Story 40. Does this person seem a little out of your league? Are you falling hard and fast? Does this person seem perfect for you? Are you amazed at how connected you feel right away? Is this person throwing excessive affection and flattery at you? You might have a cluster B personality type on your hands, which can inevitably lead to abuse in some way. Story 41. They are difficult to set boundaries with. Anytime you ask them not to do something or decline a request, it takes several repetitions for the message to be understood. Story 42. I want you, but I do not need you. While this might be technically true, this mindset, combined with the urge to tell you that aloud, is a huge problem and reveals where her mindset is. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.